Hey guys, Phil here. So, let's talk PS4 Neo. By the way, welcome to one of my commentaries in a very, very long time, but the PS4 Neo news just got dropped by Giantbomb. Apparently someone leaked info on basically PlayStation 4.5, or Neo as they're calling it internally, and I just wanted to make a quick commentary on it, give my thoughts, because I think we're seeing a shift in the console basically in how consoles will function and will be upgraded in the future. So, before we jump into my thoughts, let's just go over what the PlayStation Neo is. So, the PlayStation 4 Neo, as the internal code name is, also often called PS4.5 or PS4K, is basically going to be a 4K version of the PlayStation 4. Don't get your hopes up, though. You're not about to be playing Destiny in 4K. No, this is mainly for home entertainment, so Netflix and maybe even Blu-ray, that sort of stuff. It's not meant for 4K gaming. Sure, there'll be some 2D side-scrollers that are on 4K and, your occasional 3D game, but it's nothing. You're not going to be playing Ratchet & Clank in 4K or anything like that. I mean, even PCs nowadays struggle with that, with high-end GPUs, etc. So, from the Giantbomb article here, the Neo will feature a higher clock speed than the original PS4, an improved GPU, and higher bandwidth on the memory. The documents we received note that the HDD in the Neo is the same as that in the original PlayStation 4, but it is not clear if that means in terms of capacity or connection speed. Honestly, capacity is the bigger one of the two. Connection speed, I mean, a hard drive rarely, especially one that spins, will rarely hit the SATA 3 gigabit per second limit, or 6 gigabit per second limit. I think it's only 3 gigabit in the, SATA 3 in the PS4. Starting in October, every PS4 game is required to ship with both a base mode, which will run on the currently available PS4, and a Neo mode for use on the new console. Basically, what this means is that games that ship after October will have a higher graphic mode, essentially, for the new PS4. What comes to mind immediately would be things like resolution or frame rate, or even same resolution, same frame rate, and just prettier things like more visual effects. If you've been watching Ratchet & Clank recently, all the bolts and all the explosions, basically more of that, prettier versions. Or, a game that's usually 900p will finally be actual real 1080p on the Neo. Or a game that usually runs at 30 possibly runs at 60, although that's a really, really big jump. So I think what's going to happen is that games that are, on that verge of running at 900p are going to then run at 1080p. The whole 30 to 60 thing is not going to happen. It's going to be visual upgrades and real 1080p or even 4K in some games cases. So let's go over the specs here. The original PS4 has 8 Jaguar cores at 1.6 gigahertz. And the Neo PS4 has 8 Jaguar cores, same number, at 2.1 gigahertz. So that's a nice, 500 megahertz bump, which that's pretty respectable. I mean, when you will notice that on a PC when you do that, and on consoles especially, because of how much access devs have, and literally developers, especially on these consoles. I don't know about this generation, but in previous generations, it would come down to 2 megahertz, 3 megahertz. Okay, we can put this effect in if we have 10 more megahertz. If we cut it by 5 megahertz, then we can't put this one more effect in. So it literally comes down to that. So 500 megahertz is quite a big jump. On the GPU side, so the original PS4 had AMD GCN, which is Graphics Core Next, 18 CUs, which is compute units, I believe, at 800 megahertz, and the Neo has an improved AMD GCN, so I believe it'll just be a newer version of it, maybe bumping from 1.2 to 1.3 or something like that. 36 compute units at 911 megahertz. So not only are you getting a very respectable 111 megahertz bump, you're actually doubling the compute unit count, which that's a pretty major improvement right there. Can't speak specifically to it as there isn't more information there, but what that basically means is that it'll be able to, run your games more beautifully and in higher resolutions and even faster. Memory on the original PS4 is 8 gigabytes of GDDR5. memory at running at 176 gigabyte per second, and on the Neo that's 8 gigabyte of the same memory, except the clock speed of the memory is increased, and now it's running at 218 gigabyte per second. So the memory thing is a little bit important, and I'm surprised that it didn't get a higher bump. But basically, memory is what you need for high resolution and for effects. You know, the memory on the PS4, it's unified, so everything runs off of the same memory. Your OS, the game, everything runs on that 8 gigabytes. And you need extremely high bandwidth, not just frame buffer or basically just total memory, but you need extremely high bandwidth for things like 4K. So that's why I can understand the bump. Now, the bump isn't as major as I might have thought it would have been, but I guess it's enough to where now 4K is going to be a reality. This article does not go into if the Neo, it says here the Neo also support 4K image output, but the games themselves are not required to be 4K native. So what this means is that it'll probably feature an HDMI 2.0 port with HDCP 2.2. And like it said, it'll support 4K output via that 4K 60, but games don't require that. So what would be kind of cool is if the PS4 is an upscaler, you know, the built-in upscaler, which does things like upscale 1080p or 720p games to 1080p, could upscale 1080p games to 4K and make them look nicer that way. What's also interesting is the fact that it doesn't talk about the Blu-ray drive, or at least nothing that I can see in this article. You know, Sony is the principal member behind Blu-ray, and with 4K becoming more prominent, you need new Blu-ray discs. And so far, the original PS4 only supports. I don't even know what the Blu-ray has a specification which I forget right now. Let me actually just Blu-ray 4K. Don't want to give here false information. Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, UHD Blu-ray. But basically, the current PS4 does not support that. But in this article, I'm not seeing anything talking about an upgraded Blu-ray drive. I'd assume so because, like I said, Sony has a very big stake in Blu-ray, and they want 4K Blu-ray to blow up. And one of the best ways to do that is to get gamers to buy a PS4 which supports it, and then have them actually watch and buy Blu-ray 4K movies. But that's pretty much it. And so that's kind of covering the PlayStation 4 Neo. What my thoughts on the whole thing are, and my opinion, is that we are seeing a shift from basically generational consoles, like you've seen going from PS2 to PS3 to PS4, which is 6th generation, 7th generation, and 8th generation. I think what's going to happen in the future is you're going to have these incremental updates where it's going to be bumps in the GPU, bumps in the CPU, bumps in the memory. It'll be a hard drive upgrade, then it'll be HDMI 3.0, which does 8K, etc., etc. It's going to go like that. And you're not going to be buying these consoles anymore in 8-year lengths. There's going to be new consoles available every maybe 2 to 3 years. And you have a choice to upgrade or not. If you don't upgrade, you can still play the games. It's not like you're getting not the full experience, but you just be leaving out some graphical effects and stuff like that. But all the games are still forced to be able to work on the older generations at that point. Sort of like if you buy a new iPhone nowadays, you can play the newer games and they'll probably have newer effects, but you can also play iPhone games, newer ones, on older phones. Up to a certain point. Generally, it's like 1 or 2 years older phone. 1 or 2 year old phones can play those games. So I think the same thing is happening there. Other users have pointed out that it might start turning into more of a PC-esque thing where you can actually upgrade individual components. I don't think that's going to happen because of the form factor. I mean, a PC is so big because of the fact that it's accessible that you need to be able to get in there. The consoles can be so small because they're highly specialized. I mean, if you've ever taken a console apart, you know how the ribbon cables and everything's really flat and hard to take apart, and then it's even harder to put back together because you don't know where things go because it's so precisely put together. So I do not think we're going to be getting user upgradable consoles. I just think that the console manufacturers are going to switch to a much shorter revision cycle and then do smaller revisions. So then again, when this console releases, I don't think they even talk about a release day. it's gonna, you know, be there for 2 years, and then boom, we're gonna get a new one. At that point, your original PS4 might be out of date, because then we're on to basically two higher generations. But all in all, it's very interesting. You know, in general, the newer consoles are moving towards being just basically PCs. I mean, they already are. You know, the processors in the Xbox One, the PS4, they are PC processors, just like you have in your Mac and your, you know, desktop PC, whatever. The graphics cards are the same. It's the same AMD graphics cards you guys run in your computers. The memory is the same. What binds them together in the subsystem is a little bit different, but even PCs are moving towards that heterogeneous architecture, where basically RAM can be used by everything, by the graphics card, by the CPU, by other systems in the computer, and not just like the CPU. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see in the future what's going to happen there. I think for now, when this thing releases, you're going to see all the YouTubers get it, obviously, because they want their games to look best. You're going to have better looking games. You're going to have a lot of people cry out because, like, oh, you know, I bought this console like 2 or 3 years ago and now it's already outdated, blah, blah, blah. It's just because they're not used to it. You know, on PC that happens every year. Every year you've got a new GPU coming out and people pay $600, $1,000 even to get the new Titans or the new Radeon Furies or whatever. So they might just have to get used to that. But yeah, guys, leave down in the comments what you think. You know, are we moving to user customizable consoles, maybe like pre-built, like you order from Sony, like, okay, I want the faster processor but the weaker graphics card, you know, something like that? Or do you think we're going to move into more incremental, faster updates, like every 2 to 3 years? Or do you think this is just something that's happening because of 4K, and once this console releases, we're going to have another like 8 years of no consoles? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why it sucked. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. My name is Phil. Peace.
Threat neutralized. Target down. Profit wasted. All smoke. Ruined KIA.
Wait in the turn. Sensors are capture your objective. UAV energy levels at 50%. UAV priority requested.
You can run, but you can't hide.
UAV tasking.
Break down. Hostile down. Ain't no place they could hide from me. Hostile down. Damn, dog. And I was hoping for a fight.